Good morning, family. Welcome to today's Lessons for Life. Today is Saturday, August 8, 2009, and today reading 1 Kings chapter 22. And before I begin, I always encourage you to read it for yourself, see what you get from it, email us and we'll put it on the blog. But we see here a pretty interesting story. We see the king of Israel and the king of Judah are actually joining forces and going to war. But before they do that, they ask for the prophets, to hear what the prophets say. And the prophets come, 400 prophets come and say, go to war, you're going to be victorious. And remember now, the King Ahab was not following God. He really had turned his heart and was serving Baal. So these prophets were not the Lord's prophets. So that's why we see the king of Judah says, well, there's not any prophets of the Lord. And that's one thing that we can immediately see, and I picked up as I was reading, just that these other prophets were not the Lord's prophets, but he asked for a prophet of the Lord in order to direct them and see what they should do. Now, as you read, you'll see that the Lord's prophet delivered a different message, and he even explained why these other prophets came about. So at that point, it was up for them to decide, well, which prophet are we going to listen to? Are we going to listen to these 400 prophets who say the same thing, who give us something, they tell us something we want to hear? Or are we going to listen to the prophet of the Lord who says something which might not be pleasing to us, but we know this is the Lord's prophet? And they, of course, as you read through, you'll see what happens. But that bears a question to us. What are we going to listen to? Who are we going to listen to? Who are we going to be obedient to? Are we going to be obedient to what the Lord wants us to do? Or are we going to be obedient to something else which may sound more appealing to us, which may sound more pleasing, which may be more of what we want to do ourselves, and not necessarily what the Lord wants to do? So just like they had that choice of, who are we going to be obedient? What advice are we going to hearken to or listen to? Same question lies with us too. Where's our obedience going to lie? Are we going to do what the Lord wants us to do, obedient to His word, to His commandments, or are we going to do something which might be more appealing or more enticing to us, our physical man? So, of course, the answer to that is always that we should listen to what the Lord has to say and follow the commandments of the Lord. But that's what I really saw as I was reading this chapter, and I even liked how Micah, which was the Lord's prophet, had said, whatever the Lord says to me, I'm not going to go with what these other prophets say just because they said it, 400 of them, and I'm going to say whatever the Lord says to me to speak. So his boldness and how he was even able to stand up and speak what he knew the Lord was saying to him, in spite of these other 400 who were saying something a little bit different, was admirable. And that's something that we can also pull from and even get a lesson from that as well too. Even in spite of what everyone else may be doing, and this is something I've learned years ago, probably at the temple, but when you see something the majority is doing, that's usually a sign of what you shouldn't be doing. So in this situation, you see the same thing. You see the majority, all these other prophets, 400 of them, were saying one thing, but yet the Lord was saying something different to Micah, which was actually the true word, the word of the Lord. So those are lessons that we got from this chapter. With that, create yourself a wonderfully blessed day today, and we'll talk again tomorrow.